This incredible story took place in the USA. Tim and Robin always dreamed of having a home, a family, and a dog. They did everything they could to make their dream come true and bought a house. They wanted to have children first and then get a dog that would grow up with the kids. But, as often happens, life had surprises in store. They had everything planned out. They would get married and try to have a child within a year or two. 3 children were supposed to be born 2 years apart. It was a great plan, except for the fact that life doesn't always go as planned. After the wedding, they waited a year and then tried to have a child. But from that moment on, everything went wrong. After more than a year, they realized it wasn't going to happen naturally. They had to try a whole range of different fertilization methods. Most of them didn't work. It took several years and a lot of money, but eventually, it paid off, and they got pregnant. They were incredibly excited when their first daughter was born. Not only were Tim and Robin overjoyed about the birth of their child, but their families also shared in the joy. When their daughter turned 1, they started the process again. This time, they got pregnant much faster. Unfortunately, they soon lost the baby. The loss was devastating, but they were determined to give their child a sibling. They took a bold step and tried again. They got pregnant quickly once more, and everything went smoothly. But towards the end of the pregnancy, things took a turn for the worse. Robin started having seizures and went into labor, ending up in the hospital. They tried to delay the birth as much as possible, but the baby was born too early. It was another little girl, and she spent some time in the neonatal intensive care unit. Fortunately, she was a little fighter and soon went home. She was a healthy and happy girl. Tim and Robin decided they didn't want to continue expanding their family at that point. They had always hoped to have 3 children, but after struggling for so long, they were happy with their 2 daughters. So much had happened in such a short time. They didn't have the energy for the next steps in their plan. They knew getting a dog could be as challenging as having a new baby. The couple wanted to take their time and enjoy the moments. But about a year later, something unexpected happened. Suddenly, Robin didn't feel well and was very tired. At first, they thought it might be stress catching up with her. But even after a good vacation, she didn't feel better. Tim convinced her to see a doctor, and together they went for a checkup. They were shocked to find out she was pregnant. Robin was expecting a child, and this time, she had conceived naturally. They were over the moon but also very anxious. Although doctors warned that Robin had a higher risk of complications during this pregnancy, they were willing to take the risk. They hadn't expected this surprise but were very happy. However, soon after the pregnancy began, Robin started having problems. She went into labor and almost lost the baby in the first trimester, but the doctors were able to prevent it. She struggled with discomfort throughout the pregnancy. The ultrasound showed the baby was doing well, which was the most important thing. But they were also very excited to find out they were having a little boy this time. Like with the second child, she went into labor too early. This time, Robin had a long labor and ended up needing an emergency C-section. Her baby was injured and partially paralyzed. He couldn't move the left side of his body at all. The doctors explained that with physical therapy, he might improve a little as he grew older. They named him Clark and gave him all the support they could. Despite his limitations, Clark was a happy child, and his sisters loved him. But as he grew older, he faced more challenges. When he was little, his limitations didn't bother him too much. But as he got older, he wanted to follow his sisters when they played. Of course, this wasn't possible. He was taken to many doctors, but none could give them answers. There were no medications or surgeries that could help cure their little boy. It seemed his parents would have to accept that he would be disabled forever. A neurologist they visited with Clark said that children respond very well to animal therapy. He gave them a list of places they could visit to interact with dogs or horses. But he also suggested it might be better to get Clark his own dog. He recommended a Chow Chow or a Labrador. They didn't really think a pet could help Clark, but it made them think. The challenges they faced with their children had derailed their original plan, but they also wanted the kids to grow up around animals. They decided to look for a dog for all the children. They liked the idea of getting a Labrador because they knew these dogs got along well with children. They searched for the right dog at local animal shelters, and one of them had the perfect pet. Lucy got along well with the children, and the 2 girls quickly grew attached to the dog. But the dog seemed to sense that little Clark needed her company. The 2 quickly developed a special bond. The dog was incredibly gentle with the child. She also understood that she had to approach the baby herself since it wasn't easy for him to reach her. The baby giggled when the dog approached him and reached out to touch her. But no one knew what would happen next. One day, when Lucy approached Clark, he laughed as usual. But suddenly, both his little arms reached up and tried to touch the dog. It was the first time he had used his left hand. Gradually, the dog helped Clark improve and move more. He stood on both feet, holding onto Lucy. And he was even able to walk for the first time because he could balance on the dog. Tim and Robin couldn't believe it. They had worried that their little boy would always have problems due to his traumatic birth. But with the help of a special dog, he got better every day. By the time the boy was about 4 years old, he had fully recovered. He was able to walk with Lucy and his sisters, and Tim and Robin finally had the family they had always dreamed of. It didn't turn out as they expected, but in the end, everything worked out.